Okay, so we're question 23. So all we have to do is apply our exponent rules. So on the top, we have x squared minus 2. And then on the bottom, we would have x to the first minus, and then root 2 is the same thing as 2 to the power of 1/2. Then we can just multiply by the reciprocal. So we would have x squared minus 2 times x to the negative first power minus 2 to the negative 1/2 power. And then we apply our exponent rules. So x squared minus 1 is just x. You have negative 2 times negative 2 makes it positive 2. And then this is basically 2 to the first power. So 1 minus 1/2 would just be 1/2. So x plus 2 to the 1/2 power, which is the same thing as x plus square root of 2. So the correct answer here is answer choice D. Okay, question 24. Okay, so we're question 24. It says, which of the following represents the positive number r increased by 5%? And so increased means it's 1 plus the ratio represented as a decimal, which 5% would be 0.05. So that's 1.05 times r. So the correct answer here is answer choice C. Okay, question 25. Okay, so for question 25, we're asked to find the median, which is basically the middle of a data set when you organize it from least to greatest. And so an easy way to do that for this is that we have a frequency of 7 here. So we just need to also cross out 7 from the top. So we have 1 plus 4 is 5 plus 2 is 7, which means that this is our center at a value of 4, which is answer choice C. Okay, question 26. Okay, so we're question 26. We're asked to find the amount of remaining fuel T hours after the trip began. And so we're told that it starts at 60,000. So we have 60,000. Okay. And then since we start with that and we lose fuel, it would be a minus. And then it says it flies at an average speed of 550 miles an hour, and it uses 5 gallons of fuel per mile flown. So you do 550 times 5, which would be 550 times 5 is 2,750. And then that's every time interval. And that is our answer, which is answer choice D. Okay, question 27. Okay, so for question 27, I used a calculator to solve this since we are on the calculator section and you are allowed to use a calculator on this section. And so what I did was I plugged in the values for B, which would match all these answer choices. So I plugged in B equals 1, B equals -1, and B equals 9, since that would satisfy A, C, and D for those three answers. And as you can see on the graph, we have the black line here, which is when I plugged in B equals 9. And then we have these two red and blue lines up here at the very top, which you might not be able to see. But there's two red and blue lines there, which do not cross the axis, which means that B can equal 1 or -1, but B does not work for 9. And the only one of these answer choices which would match these criteria would be answer choice A. Because if it works for 1 or -1, it means that B can be less than 0 or greater than 0. So that gets rid of answer choices C and D. And when you plug in 9, we do get, it does have a real solution, which means that B squared being greater than 60 does have a real solution in there, which means that the only answer choice which could have no real solutions would be A. Okay, question 28. Okay, so we're told that there's two lines, Q and R, and we're told that line R passes through 1, K. So 1K would be like this. And if it passes through the origin, well, that would just mean that K is equal to the slope. So K equals slope. And so we're told that the other line is perpendicular. So parallel means that they both have the same slope. Perpendicular means that it's opposite and well, it's basically inverse. So instead of K, it would be -1 over K. So -1 over K is our new slope. And the slope formula is y equals mx plus b. Since it intersects at the origin, we don't have a b value. So the slope is -1 over K, and we multiply by x, which we can simplify to -x over K, which would be answer choice B. Okay, question 29. Okay, so for this question, there are a couple of formulas we need to know. First is the area of the triangle area. And so for that, we have area equals root 3 over 4 times the side squared. And then the other formula we need to know is the circle formula, or area of a circle, which is just pi r squared. So area equals pi r squared. final thing we need to know is since this is 60 degrees, we know that we can fit 6 of these inside of one circle because a circle is 360. And so we can fit 6 of these triangles in one circle. So we're just gonna instead work with 180 since that's gonna be easier. And so we would have 1/3. Since 60 times 3 is 180, so 1/3 of 180 is 60 degrees. And then pi r squared, well, the radius is 4. So 4 squared is 16. But the difference is that you actually need to divide by 2. And I'll explain that in a little bit. But let me first finish the other part. So you have 8 pi. And then, because that will give you the area between A and B. And then you need to find the area of the triangle, which is √3/4 times s squared. And since we're working with 1/3, because we're trying to find this out of 180 degrees, we'd have to multiply this equation by 3, because we're finding the area of 3 triangles since we're working out of 180. So this would be 3 times √3/4 times the side, which is 4 squared, which this simplifies into 12√3. And that's how you figure out the answer, which is answer choice D. Now, personally, I would have solved this a different way than the way which they solved it. But since it doesn't ask for an answer and it just asks for a formula, essentially, we have to kind of solve it the way they did. I would have personally worked with 360 degrees instead of 180. But since they solved it this way, this is the way we kind of have to do it. Okay, question 30. Yeah, I forgot to mention for the last question, the reason why we had 8 pi was because we were working with 180 degrees. And so originally for the circular formula, we have pi r squared, the radius was 4. So 4 squared is 16. But since we have to half the area of the circle, it would just be 8 pi. So that's why there was 8 pi. Last question. Okay, so for question 30, we're told that a survey has 30 students, so 30 is the total, equals the number of students who have one sibling is 3 times the number of students who have 2 or more siblings. So we have 3 times n. And then we also have to include the number of people who have 2 or more siblings, so 3n plus the number of people who don't have siblings, which is 6. So we have 30 equals 3n plus n plus 6. 30 is equal to 4n plus 6, which is answer choice C. Okay, question 31. Okay, so for question 31, it says for how many of the 10 airports was the percent of flights with delayed arrivals less than the predicted by the line of best fit? Well, for this question, what it's basically asking is how many of these dots are below the line. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the correct answer here is 6. Okay, question 32. This for question 32. We're told that this angle is 75, this angle is 65, and this angle here is 40. We're asked to find the measure of angle C, which is this one right here. And so since this is angle 40 and this other triangle is congruent, which means it has the same angle measures, it means that this angle measure must also be 40. And then now you've made a triangle. And so triangle, the sides have to add up to 180. So 180 equals 40 plus 40 plus x. X is equal to 100. So the correct answer here is 100. Okay, question 33. Okay, so for question 33, we're given a graph like this, and we're given we're asked to find the value of m, which is essentially the slope. So what is the slope of the graph? And so if we look at here, it gives us some set defined points at 0, 2, and it also gives us a set defined point at 2, 5. And so we just have to find a change, and so, or the change in x and change in y. And so as you can see, it goes up 3, and it goes right 2. So we have 3/2 as our slope. Okay, question 34. Okay, so for question 34, we're asked, according to the table, what fraction of the cornfields where an eye spot was observed needed fungicide? And so it says where an eye spot was observed, so the total for that would be 40. So that would be your denominator. And it asks what fraction needed fungicide? And so for the intersection for eye spot observed and fungicide needed, we have 30. So we have 30/40, which simplifies into 3/4. And that is the correct answer. Question 35. Okay, so someone asked how you get 40 as the denominator. Well, it says what fraction of cornfields where an eye spot was observed. And so you have to see the eye spot observed column and see the total. That's how you get the denominator. Because we're given that they chose a cornfield with an eye spot that was observed. That is the given. And we're asked what amount of them still need fungicide. So that would be 30/40 or 3/4. Okay, so for question 35, we're asked what is the rate of change between 1916 and 1926? And so we just take 1926, which is 421,000, and we subtract 1916, which is 397,000, which gets us 24,000. And then we take that and divide by the number of years, which would be 10. So when you divide 24,000 by 10, you get 2,400, which is the correct answer. Okay, question 36. Okay, so we're question 36. We're told that they painted 20 houses in July. So July is 20. And we're told in August they painted 20% more. So we have 20 times 1.2, because that's 20% more, which is equal to 24. So in August, they picked a 24. And then asked what fraction of the total number of houses were painted in August. And so we need to find the total number of houses. So 20 plus 24 is 44. And then that would be our denominator because that's the total. And then for the numerator, it would be the number of houses painted in August, which is 24. So we have 24 over 44, which simplifies into 6 over 11, which is the correct answer. Okay, question 37. Okay, so for question 37, you just have 12,000 times x equals 9,600. And so x would equal 0.8. And so that means the difference between 1 and 0.8 is 0.2. And so 0.2 converted into a percentage is 20%. So the correct answer is 20. So for question 37, the correct answer is 20. Okay. Someone asked how I got 0.8. 12,000 times x equals 9,600. You just divide 9,600 by 1,200 to get x, 0.8. And then the difference between 1 and 0.8 is 0.2. Okay, question 38. Okay, so for this question, we're given two equations with a bunch of different variables. And so for this one, since these two, what's in the parentheses of this one is equal to what's in the parentheses of this one, and what's in the parentheses of this one is equal to what's in the parentheses of this one, we can just substitute x and y for these parentheses. And so we have 37, we'll just write next to it. So for this one, we have 37 equals, and we're going to substitute x for this function. So x plus y, 37 equals x plus y. So y is equal to this function, which is 1/2 u minus 4, and x is equal to 1/3 t plus 5. And for the other one, we have 19 equals, well, you have the same exact function, which we defined as x minus, and then for this function, we had defined it as y. So 19 equals x minus y. Now you're just solving a normal systems of equations. So once you do that, we have x minus, I'm gonna write this here, x minus, and for y, you'd substitute the other equation, which would be 37 minus x, which we just substituted in for this equation. And then equals 19. Then you'd substitute, so x, and then these two negatives would cancel out, so you'd have 2x minus 37 equals 19. X is equal to 28. And then you can substitute back into the equation to get y. So 28 plus y equals 37. So y is equal to 9. And then we're asked to find what is the value of the product. 1/3 t plus 5. So that would be this function. So basically, what is the value of the product? X times y. So 28 times 9 is equal to 252. And that is the correct answer. 252. Okay. Question 1, we're now on the no calculator again. No calculator. Okay, so for this question, we're asked to find a relationship between x and y, and so y equals mx plus b. We know that b is the intercept, so when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 2, so b is equal to 2, and it's positive 2. I mean, just using this information, we can already say it's a, since none of the other answers have that, but we'll just also find the slope. So when x increases by 1, we can see that y also increases by 1, so m is equal to 1, so we would have x plus 2 equals y, which is equal to answer choice A. Okay, question 2. Okay, so for question 2, we can just use the angle theorems. And so since this angle is 40, we know that this angle also has to be 40. And so is this angle. We also know that if this angle is 40, then that means this angle here has to be 40. And if that angle is 40, it means that x has to be 40. So x is equal to 40. So the correct answer is A. Okay, so for question 3, we're given a function and we're told what is the value of f of 4. So we just plug in 4 squared is 16 minus 5 times 4 would be 20 plus 6. Once we add all these together, we get negative 4 plus 6, which is 2. So the correct answer here is 2, which is answer choice B. Okay, question 4. Okay, so for question 4, we know that she can spend up to a total of 20, which means that whatever we have has to be less than or equals to 20, because she can't spend more than that. And we're told that streamers cost 149 per pack, so 149 times S plus, what is it, 439 per balloon. And so that would be answer choice B, where 1.49S plus 4.39B is less than or equals to 20. Okay, question 5. Okay, question 6. Okay, we have x cubed plus x squared minus x. So we can just add them together. So x cubed plus x squared plus x minus x. This plus x and minus x cancel out. So we just have x cubed plus x squared, which is answer choice C. Oh wait, I just realized I accidentally skipped question 5. Sorry about that. Okay, so for question 5, we know that the total distance is 1,000 miles, and we know that he can do 250 miles a day. So 1,000 minus 250 times n, which is the number of days, has to equal the total distance. That means in 4 days, you'd have traveled the entire distance. So the correct answer is choice D. Okay, question 7. Okay, so for this one, we kind of just have to match the graph to the table. So at x equals, I'm just going to write down the 4 answer choices. We have A, B, C, and D. And so for this one, at x equals 0, f of x equals 2. So 0. So first we have to check the scale. The scale here is by 10 for all of these graphs, which means that each one of these boxes represents 2. So when you go right 1, you're actually going, your x increases by 2. And when you go up 1, your y increases by 2. And so 0, comma 2, well, answer choice A works for that. Answer choice B works for that. Answer choice C does not work for that. So C cannot be our answer. Answer choice D does work for that. And then we have to check x equals -1. So at -1, this is 6. So A cannot be right. Answer choice B at -1, we're at 0. So it can't be B. For answer choice D at -1, we're at 3, which is correct. So the correct answer is answer choice D. Okay, question 8. Okay, so for question 8, we're asked to find the equivalent function. So we have x plus 2 in the numerator and x plus 2 squared in the denominator. And we're told to find which of the following expressions is equivalent. And so we take the top function, which is x plus 2, and the bottom function, we just split apart into x plus 2 times x plus 2. And then, since these two are the same, we can cross them out because they would cancel each other out. So what we're left with is 1 over x plus 2, which would be the correct answer, which is answer choice B. Okay, question 9. Okay, so for question 9, we're asked which of the following is the equation line, which contains points 1, 3, and 5, 15. So we just have to find the slope. And so the slope would be the change in x, which is 4. And then we know the change in y is 15 minus 3, which is 12. And so the slope would just be 12 over 4. 12 over 4, which is equal to 3. So we have y equals mx plus b. We know the slope is 3, so y equals 3x plus b. And so the only one of these answer choices with a slope of 3 is answer choice A. So the correct answer is A. Okay, question 10. Okay, so for question 10, we're told that the solution has infinitely many solutions. That means no matter what you plug in for x, it will always be true. And so for that, we have to have the same exact slope and same exact y-intercept. And so for that, let's simplify this left side. 4x divided by 2 is just 2x plus b over 2 equals 2x plus 8. We can subtract 2x from both sides, and we have b over 2 equals 8. We multiply both sides by 2. And that gets us b is equal to 16, which is interest D. Okay, question 11. Okay, so for question 11, we're just asked to find the area. And so when we just divide up the figure into things, I mean, you could also just solve this as a quadrilateral, but I just find dividing up into a square and a triangle easier. And so for the square and triangle, we just divide it here. So 4 times 4 is 16. So the area of this is 16. And then this bottom length is 7. This much would be 4. So this much has to be 4 plus 3 to get the entire length of 7. And then this length is 4. So 4 times 3 is 12 divided by 2 to get 6. So the area of this triangle is 6. 16 plus 6 is equal to 22, which is the correct answer, which is choice B. Could also solve this as a quadrilateral, but that's just more work. All right, question 12. Okay, so for question 12, we're asked to find was the y-intercept of the graph y equals 4 to the power of x in the xy plane. And so we know that y-intercept is where x is equal to 0, so we just plug in 0. Y equals 4 to the 0th power. Anything to the 0th power is just 1, so y is equal to 1. So the intersection would be 0, comma 1. 0 is the x, 1 is the y. which is answer choice C. Okay, question 13.
After this question is done, we'll end the session. Okay, Pushya? It's time.
Okay, so for question 13, since we're out of time, x squared minus 14x plus 40 equals 2x plus 1, x squared minus, we subtract 2x from both sides, so x squared minus 16x plus 39 equals 0. That would leave us with intercepts of x plus 3 and x plus 13, because 13 times 3 is 39, and 3 plus 13 is 16. So the sum of those solutions would be 3 plus 13, which is 16, which is answer choice D.